if data centers can't be accepted into the space, that would allow big companies to come in so they can have that data storage nearby and have all the jobs that come along with it. And folks say that data centers don't provide jobs. You and I are in data centers, and we've been doing it a long time.
The jobs
And
run
it's
the gamut,
provided a
right?
job for me. Just saying. Welcome to Hands on Heroes podcast. I'm Val Crafton, the voice of grit. I champion the people who power progress and prove that the future is built by those willing to get their hands dirty. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hands on Heroes. And I have a special guest today, Mike, who I'm going to let him introduce. But Mike and I go back a long time. He and I were both in the field when I was working in the field as a general contractor. And so known him for a really long time. And I'm really honored to have him on Hands on Heroes to inspire future generation. He really is the example of what I'm trying to inspire. And so it's going to be a really great story, and I can't wait to hear it. And we are all going to learn together. So, Mike, thanks so much for being on Hands on Heroes podcast today.
Sure. Morning, Valerie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't we kick off with you kind of doing a quick introduction of who you are and where you are today.
Sure. Mike Hastings. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. Grew up in Southern California in the LA area. I've had a long road that we'll talk about here and how I landed to where I'm at now. But currently working with IES Communications on the low voltage side of the house. We're doing primarily data center builds. That's a huge part of our business, right? But we do everything from the metals to the fiber, copper, and everything in between, right? Just building we call it the passive infrastructure for data centers.
Yeah, beautiful. It's a great space to be in today. So I know I certainly count myself lucky to have gotten into it pretty early and a lot of new people entering in. So, you and I were talking about how there's this really lack of path for, children in foster care and folks, all of us, we kind of start in different places in the race of life, right? Some of us start sort of negative and we don't have that right guidance in our life to shoot us forward, set us up for success, have a place to fall back on when we fall hard on our luck and we're like, hey, can we come home for a few months? Not all of us start there. And so I really want to kind of jump in, take us back to Mike early years and give us a little insight of where you started.
Sure. Well, without going into too much detail, right? Could be a little incriminating.
Comfortable. Yeah.
No, I had a rough path growing up. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, and I ended up in some neighborhoods that weren't ideal, right? The schools weren't the best. My friend groups weren't the greatest, right? So the influences around me weren't the best. And I took a wrong turn somewhere down the road and ended up getting locked up for a few years as a kid. And so when I was in that juvenile detention system in LA, there wasn't a whole lot of, mentorship or here's what options you have when you get out and, that kind of thing. And I did go through what they call an emancipation program where you end up in a halfway house or a group home with other kids getting ready to get reintroduced to society. And they teach you to get a job and manage a checkbook and, the basics of life, but then it's go, enjoy, right? And so get back home and I've got these same influences. I'm still in that same area. So I just had to figure it out, right? I had to quickly realize this isn't the life for me and then start working from there to better my life. So,
I read a statistic that 50% of children who end up in the system, foster care systems, juvenile systems, become homeless because although they give you a little bit of skills on, like you said, how to balance a checkbook, how about how to make money? They forgot the path to having a job and how to interview and maybe college isn't for everyone. And here are some of your options to maybe get paid to learn and really set you up for success. They forgot to tell you what that looked like. When I read that statistic, 50% of them end up homeless. I had to call the foster care system and find out, is that real? And you know what they said to me? They said, not only is it real, it's probably inaccurate because it's more than 50%. And that they realize that this is a gap. And Hands on Heroes is partnering with them to help them develop, at least here in Arizona, New Mexico, we're going to start there, develop that program looks like for future generations. So
I
you're in
love it.
juvenile and
Yeah.
and you're going through an emancipation program. They taught you how to balance a checkbook. Now you're on your own and you've had to figure it out. Now, what does that figure out path look like? Just walk us through that.
Well, I mean, we learned how to fill out an application, right, to get a job. So you go find a job, right? And this is survival mode at this point. You're just trying to get enough money to feed yourself and pay what bills you start racking up is because you can't afford life, right? So
Right.
that quickly starts to happen. You end up underwater and just struggle. And then the struggle ensues and it doesn't go away. And then now, if you even want to consider college, it's way too expensive. There's how am I going to pay for it, right? And I don't know who to talk to. So I just kind of worked my way through life and going job to job, trying to get my dollar raise or 50-cent raise or whatever the case may be, just so I can keep surviving as the cost of living goes up. And it's that constant rat race, right? That you're never going to get ahead. You're never going to have a stable career. And so I had to learn. I had to figure it out.
So as you're figuring it out along the way, you stumble across something that kind of looks like the trades, but you don't get to start there. You're starting in like a warehouse and so forth. So that was kind of your first kind of introduction or at least visual representation of what that looks like. Walk us through that.
Sure. So I started actually was at a tech company called Storage Tech. They made data storage devices, right? These gigantic tape libraries and these big mainframe looking systems. So we were our refurbishment center. So we would bring the equipment in, refurbish it, and ship it back out. And I was working in the warehouse doing the logistics support for them. Still just, not making a whole lot of money, but better than when I was working at a deli or, somewhere where I was making minimum wage, right? But then that's where I got a little bit of a glimpse of there might be a future here is on the maybe the tech side of things. So I started paying attention to that, partnering up with some of the techs in the field, asking if I can go out with them and put eyes on what they do and how do they install this stuff and where's it going, right? So I just started to explore that. And some of the techs were actually cool enough to let me come along with them and show me the ropes. And here's how you access a data center and data centers. Well, this was back in 2000, 3 around that
Mm-hmm.
time frame. So data centers were fairly new at the time. A lot of them were customer owned. They weren't even co-locations yet. So that was my first exposure to the data center world. And then I started working with the trucking companies because we were transporting a lot of that equipment to and from different sites, right? We would take down a customer data center, ship it, and then rebuild it on the other side. And as I was managing those projects, I got to know the shipping companies very well. So I went into that world, joined Mayflower Transit, joined United Van Lines, and I got to some exposure to the logistics side, the trucking side of the world. And then I helped build a data center relocation vertical for both those organizations at different agencies there. So that was where I just started, asking questions, but then finding people that I could trust and that I kind of, looked up to, I will say, and that would allow me to, tag along or answer my questions. And I was like that little kid that would ask a bunch of questions and they would answer, right? So that's how I grew and that's how I learned. I just kind of kept growing from there.
I think you've touched on a couple of things. Not only does it take a lot of grit to just keep trying new things, keep seeking knowledge, asking questions, being curious. And if you don't ask, not just asking questions and being curious, but really asking, hey, I'd like to learn more about that. Do you mind if I go along? And the fact that these folks said yes. I mean, I don't know if anybody's listening and you've got these really curious people and they just want to tag along. You think, oh, you're going to slow me down, or I don't really have time for this. You never know how such a small gesture can really change the trajectory of someone's entire life. And
100%.
I really see that as a pivotal moment. Had any of them, or all of them for that matter, said, no, I don't have time, dude, go focus on your job and just be there and do your job. But instead, they said, no, come on, let me teach you some more of this business. And then you stayed curious and kept asking questions. And it just kept leading to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And I just think that's just, in a nutshell, this beautiful dynamic that so many of us who are in the industry if you see those curious people who are constantly asking questions, wanting to tag along, even if they don't ask to tag along, invite them, because that is that pivotal moment I heard that kind of pushed you into, hey, you started seeing more. And the more you saw, the more you wanted to know.
Right.
Right.
I
That is,
wouldn't have had exposure. Yeah.
it's that exposure, that early exposure. And I think the data center world is one of those very secret things. I know when I first walked onto my first data center project, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, what is this warehouse? And then things started happening. I'm like, why do we need so many generators? Why did we have to dig? We built a building and then dug 20 feet down and filled it with conduit. It looked like a bowl of spaghetti. And I'm just like so confused. I'm like, okay, so we put all of this conduit. How are we going to pull the wires to that? And I just was so curious. I kept asking more questions and more questions. The next thing I realized is how cool data centers was. That was 21 years ago. So it was a very intriguing from the outside, doesn't look that cool, but it's a really redundant, complicated, there's so many parts and pieces to it. You'll never know everything, and it's constantly evolving. It's just like, wow, where we've been, where we are is pretty night and day. This episode is powered by Mod 42, the modular data center company redefining speed to market. From design to delivery, Mod 42 brings precision manufacturing, quality assurance, and trusted execution to every build. When reliability can't wait, Mod 42 delivers. Learn more at mod42.com. You have fully immersed yourself and know what a data center is now, and you're more curious than ever. Talk to us about that next phase. I mean, this is that launching and that pivotal moment. How'd you end up in fiber?
While I was in the field, I eventually ended up going back to school and went to an adult education program. And I did get a degree as I was doing all of this stuff, right? And I figured I need this. This is what I have to get another career type job, right? Because I wasn't getting any doors open for me. I figured, well, let's go spend a bunch of money and see what happens, right? So I did that, and I put myself in a ton of debt, and ultimately over time realized it probably didn't help me a whole lot. I mean, it did. It got me some interviews. It helped me, learn organization and that kind of thing, accomplishing goals, which are great. But there's other ways to do that too, right? As I was in the field, I was always running into IS. We were bringing the equipment into the data centers that they were fitting out, right? So the racks would come in, the fiber would come in, the copper would come in, the overhead conveyance would come in, and it's always these IES vests that I was seeing in the field. So kept running into them, and then one day sparked up a conversation saying, "What are you guys doing?" Because it intrigued me as well, watching this perfect cabling being ran and the way it's dressed, like it just impressed me, right?
Yes.
So I talked to them, and they ended up making me an offer to come over, and it turned out to be good timing because they were looking to grow their services division. And data centers were asking, I guess, to do more of the maintenance and keeping the data centers running after they were built. So we developed that data center services group, and it's still running today.
Amazing. So you got this introduction to fiber. I too always ran into IES on my projects, whether it was semiconductor or data center. They always seem to be there, and really familiar with them. What I loved about your story is kind of similar to mine. I grew up on a construction site. I was raised by my dad, and he had taught me how to build a house from the ground up. And interesting enough, that when I went out to try to get a job as a framer or go do anything, nobody would take me serious or hire me. And so I thought I had to go to get a degree to be taken serious. So I think that says a lot of how far we've come. Because if you go back 25 years, we were not trying to recruit people. and it didn't seem like there was a very easy way to find your way into the trades. And it was just a very different time at that time where we were pushing people away. We weren't really talking about it. There were plenty of blue collar labor folks and a lot of families. If your family was in it, it was a little easier to understand it. But I didn't have family in unions or anything like that specialized in the trade. I had a father who was special needs, and he had a tough time getting a job. And so he had to go and teach himself these handyman stuff. Next thing you know, he's building his own houses for his disabilities, being able to read and dyslexia. You couldn't find those jobs. So like
Mhm.
all these people who we dismiss them. For me, it was like I was told to go focus on being a mom and not worry about it. I'm like, well, then I'm going to go get a degree. And I ended up with all the debt, right?
Mhm.
And then I got out in the field and I went, wait a minute. There are programs out there that I could have joined and learned how to do this. There are unions out there who would have established a job for me as an apprentice like that. This
Mhm.
wasn't common knowledge for at
Right.
least for me or for you, it sounds like. And here we went and we got the degree, and then we come out and we said, I could have
Now,
ended up where I am right now without the degree, without all of the debt. And so I think that's my message for anybody who's listening. You're trying to consider, hey, what am I going to do? Go seek out, even if you start off in a prefab shop, just bending a pipe to prep it to get installed by someone else. Just surround yourself by those people. So I think that that step was a good step for you because it was the way you kind of found out about this world in the first place.
yep. Yeah.
And then, ask questions, be curious, call general contractors, call electricals. I mean, they can only accept so many apprentice per person, just like a classroom. You can only put so many students with a teacher. Maybe their program's full, but don't just stop with one. Just keep going and going until you find someone who's willing to bring you into the program. Can you go to college? Absolutely. And if you want to go in a management route, that's probably a good idea. There's a lot of things that you can learn through the education program,
Sure.
whether it's junior college or college. But the reality of it is once you're in, those companies will pay for that schooling. You
Right.
don't need to go into debt for it. So
Right.
just find your home first. You don't have to go to college, especially if you don't know what you want to do when you're done.
And you
Um,
earn a lot of respect that way, right? When you grind up from the bottom and the
oh,
company sees
yeah,
your value, they will reinvest in you. They will bring you up, right? So you just get in and work hard and earn your way in. It's really
100%.
not that difficult, right? You just got to put the work in, lay the track. So
You've got to put the work in and lay the tracks. And I think it's a really beautiful story because I know that when I watch people flounder around in college, change their degree two or three times, and then they drop out with no degree, no job, and a lot of debt, right? And then to finish a degree with all the debt, but end up in the field and looking around at the trades, and they're sitting here going, they've been for the last 4 years while I was paying someone to learn. They were getting paid to learn, and they were buying houses instead of paying debt off. And I was like, wow, I don't know
right.
how you don't look at those jobs and think, now that's a lot more glamorous than anything else. So I do think there's a lot of respect. We had a guest on before, and how he had talked about he had started off in the trades and then went to college, then got an MBA, and now is running as a data center operator. But again, did it backwards, and that grit, the fact that you're going to be managing people, and those people know that you know how it feels to be them. There's a lot of respect there, and there's a lot of empathy for your team because you've walked in the shoes that they're walking in. And then you also, when you come in from a different place, like you, Mike, and even myself, you really can see the potential in people and say, hey, come along with me and let me show you a path of that will allow you to thrive in life.
Right.
Right. And so I think it's a beautiful thing. So tell us about, how what it was like once you did get in the field and you were learning all the things, and what made you make that decision to go to college.
I enjoyed it. I honestly thought this was what my life, right? I found this niche. I'm going to do this forever. I want to be a data center technician. And I thought this was the holy grail and this was as good as I was ever going to get, right? But then they started seeing leadership qualities in me. So wherever I went, they would say, "Hey, we need you to train some teams up, mentor some people, build, groups of people that we can send out to deploy other projects." And so I just said, okay. And I started mentoring people and bringing other people in. My brothers even worked with me for a while. And, that was a lot of fun. But then once you get that management opportunity and you start going down that path, you realize there's a lot of things missing that I might not know. And to get to the next stage in management, I'm going to need that degree, right? I'm going to need some piece of paper to get to the table to say, hey, can you interview me so I can show you what I can do? That was the reason I turned to wanting to get a degree. I mean, that on top of it was just a personal goal of mine that I told myself I could do it. And so I wanted to do it. yeah, that's what drove me towards getting my degree. And it was tough. It was really tough. I had a newborn child at the time, and I was working two jobs essentially. I had a little side business going, and I was going to school at night, and it was rough.
Making the ends meet in all directions. Yeah, that is hard because it takes a lot of grit to balance all of those things and really come in every day and make that commitment. And you're lacking sleep. You're trying to balance the family, the work, the studies, two jobs. Wow. I mean, it's a lot, right? And I think that's the difference between probably you and when someone looks at you and says, "Wow, Mike, you're so lucky. Look at you. You've got
Right.
this wonderful family and you're doing so well." But what they don't see is the struggle, the sacrifice, the grit that it took you to get to that point. And so I'm so honored to kind of share that story because that's what it takes is staying up late at night, going and doing things others aren't willing to do is usually what leads to success.
Sure.
Waking
And
up every day.
it makes it a little easier too when you've been on the bottom. You don't want to go back, right? You know what that feels like. You know how hard it is. So I think once you get a little taste of, okay, I don't have to live here anymore, that's where that drive comes from, right? I'm not going back to that bottom. I can't. I can't live there.
And you don't want your children to have the lifestyle you had.
Correct. Yeah.
100%.
That's why I see the potential in kids that weren't dealt that golden hand. They've got a lot more opportunity, in my opinion. The road might be longer to get there, but their brain is going to allow them to push through and give them that grit, as you said, to get through it and grow. Because if they realize that there is opportunity out there, they can realize their own potential and just keep going after it.
I mean, that's such a great point because so many times we go and say, "Oh, I want to hire the cream of the crop out of this graduating class." But what have they actually done
Right.
besides sit and memorize a bunch of concepts in a classroom?
Right.
Right? Are they putting themselves through school? Are they also balancing jobs? We look at the young folks, but what about folks looking to make a pivot mid-year, mid-30s? And they haven't had a straight path of what society says it's supposed to look like. But they also didn't have the same start that society says that you should have. Not all of us are lucky enough to have that type of start. So we all start at different places in the race. Some of us have different hurdles in front of us than others, and yet you make it anyway. I would hire that person all day long because I know that when push comes to shove and things get hard and stress is high, those are the ones that, and frankly, when you're in the world of mission critical and data center, those are the type of people I want on my team because it's stressful. It's fast paced. You don't really have a lot of time to gripe, complain, or moan about anything. There's no room for excuses. You kind of need to move right into let's just figure it out. What are we going to do about it? Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of the I don't know, what am I going to do? Or it's impossible mindset. You've got the survival mindset. I will figure it out no matter what, because you've been figuring it out your entire life.
And the work ethic to push through it, right?
That's right. And the work ethic and grit to push through it. I always think about mission critical, like, wow, it's just so hard. Every day, it's always something, nothing's the same. I think that our world attracts high performers because of that. People with a lot of grit, thick skin, not just willing, but able to get themselves back up, self starters. I think it attracts a lot of people like that. And if you're that type of person, then you should definitely be looking into the industry of data center and even more so construction within that realm. There's just a lot to be said about someone we've succeeded against the odds. We've succeeded against the odds, even when everyone told us it couldn't be done.
Absolutely.
And every day we continue to live like that with that mindset.
Absolutely. Without handouts, without freebies, right? You got to go get it. I mean, if you stand around and wait for someone to give you something, it's not going to happen. You have to get after it. And like you said, if you have that mentality, there's such a shortage of labor in this space that if you have that mindset, you will be hired on the spot, you will be trained, and you will move up quickly, right? That's a fact. We can't find enough quality people that have that mindset that you just described that want to do this job. And I think if you are that person, you have a golden ticket to get up to the top, right? I mean, they will train you up. So
There's a lot of transferable skills there. And if you're willing to learn, ask questions, and be curious, you're going to find success at the end of your path. You're going to be thriving in a job. You're going to own a house. You're going to have a family. You're going to have all the things that you desire. Maybe family's not for everyone, but that's okay too. But you're going to find your own path, your own successes. And I just think that's beautiful. So let's talk about advice or pathways. What are some of the pathways that even IES has put into place to help improve the workforce development and how someone might be able to join a space? You've found such success there. I'd be curious to hear about what are some of those avenues if anybody's interested. You're representing the company and this is a pathway option. What does that look like for someone?
So this is where I transition to the part of my life where I'm now trying to give back, right?
Yes.
Because I don't want to say I've made it because I still have my own personal goals. I still have
Sure.
dreams and aspirations, right? And I'm not done yet, but I'm now more on the business development side of the house and, earned my way to that spot. So I get to participate in things like what I'm about to explain. So we had a leadership conference I think it was a few years ago. We were challenged to come up with an idea to solve a problem in the industry, right? And one of the biggest problems is labor shortage. We need more people, and the people that understand data center are aging out, right? We're not getting enough to backfill. So we came up with a program called New Boots, right? And what we figured was in a lot of these areas, like where I grew up, I couldn't afford a, $200-300 pair of work boots that were going to be comfortable to wear all day to get to work. So we said, well, what if we can come up with an idea to where they go through a program, they graduate the class, with their tools get donated from all of our sponsors and manufacturers and partners, right? And then we're donating a set of work boots to this person who went through this whole class. So we
Got
started
goosebumps.
that in Atlanta and we went to a high school and piloted it there and it went off amazing, right? They were a little skeptical at first, but after and all the feedback they got from the kids that went through the class, they wanted us to come back. And the class, essentially doubled. And now we're being asked to expand it into other cities and states. And now we're going to do it here in Phoenix next. And it's just an amazing program to allow a lot of kids that we'll say were underprivileged, right? That didn't have a lot of opportunities. Give them some exposure, a little bit of training, and here's a gift. This will allow you to go to work. And then we partner them up with a buddy in the field. So when they get on site, they're not just shell shocked by, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on here. This might not be for me because that happens, right? The turnover quick within the first few months, they just get freaked out and leave. So we partner them with a buddy to kind of walk them through and mentor them up, right? And that helps both the buddy and the new person because now the buddy gets to, reevaluate their skill set and transfer that knowledge, which helps them grow as well. So far the program's working well, and we're looking for other ways to roll it out. Partnering with some nonprofit organizations and trade people that are pushing the trades, right? There's a couple groups out there that are doing that, and we look to partner with them and just keep it going.
Well, I'm definitely going to get you in contact with the Foster Care Alliance as well, because they agreed that there's a gap there. I'm going to be interviewing them on a podcast here soon, just to kind of talk about imagining what that looks like. And instead of recreating the wheel, it's about partnering with the folks who have these programs in place to set them up for success. And I
Yeah.
think this is a really great program that you just shared with everyone. And if you're looking to get involved in that program, and you're looking to donate the tools, create some of the internships, and even be a part of the program in partnership with IES, we'll have Mike's information in the show notes to share. You can get in contact with him directly. I think that if we just all come together and do a little something, we're not in competition with each other. Everybody seems to have this beautiful idea of how they can give back. And yours, I think, comes from your own experience, right? Like you're remembering back to what you didn't have and that fresh start and what would I have liked to have had when I first kicked off? What would that look like? What does good look like?
Sure.
Because I certainly know what bad looks like. And so let me think about let me reimagine how we can improve bringing more labor in. And then not only just bringing them in so that we can have a job, but how can I make this a good experience for them? And so I love that you've included not only the tools, the boots, but the mentor. And then those folks are giving back as well. Now, fast forward, these folks have walked in, they've joined the program, they've gone through it, they've gotten comfortable, they've not left in a few months. Now they're the mentors.
That is the goal.
That
Yep.
is the goal.
Bring the next one up. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Love
it's a
that.
good feeling for everybody, right? I mean, I love mentoring people up now. And once you do it, you realize that it comes from the heart, right? You don't have to do it. You could keep doing your job every day and you'd be totally fine. But it's that piece of helping somebody else grow and watching that person grow,
Mhm.
that's fulfilling to me, right? And that's the part of my life where I'm in now that I don't know how you feel about the religious side, but I'm now walking with God, and that's my focus, and that's where I'm getting my strength and energy from is doing His work, and I feel like that's the work that I should be doing is helping to develop and grow other people, and I get more from that than I do from the paycheck, right? I mean, we all have to get paid, but honestly, that's the piece that I'm lacking in my life and trying to develop more. So,
I think it's really beautiful. And I think the more you give back, the more you receive. And sometimes it's the seeds that you plant for the tree of the shade you'll never sit in, right? Even if it's not today, this thing will continue to grow and continue to grow. And if you're looking to grow something similar in your own area, again, don't recreate the wheel, find partnerships.
right,
Because I think that when it's going well and it's successful, then there's something there that there's some repeatability there. So if there's other companies, electrical, mechanical, there's a lot of trades out there. If you're looking to create something within your business that gives back and solves a big industry problem simultaneously, here's a program that's been doing it for several years now. How many years has New
I,
Boots been in place?
I want to say we developed it 3 years ago and it rolled out last year.
Oh,
So it's fairly
fantastic.
new,
Okay.
but it's definitely paying dividends. It's working and we're seeing it work in other people, which is the ultimate goal, right? So,
So it takes planning, it takes time, it takes resources, it takes funding. All of that takes time, but you've already done it. You've already kind of figured out some of the things. You've even gotten it out there, piloted it, played it out, probably had to make some tweaks along the way. It's grown and evolved into what it is. Let's go learn from each other. Reach out and ask questions if you're looking to do something similar. I love that. So let's talk about what's next. Is New Boots going to grow? Are you looking to make this nationwide? Or are you thinking of another program?
yeah, I mean, we have other programs for recruiting and our typical channels that we go through to recruit, but this one's the fun one, right? And the struggle with this one is it takes a lot of resources, right? We're putting on classes, we're bringing tools, we're bringing cabinets and cabling and we're teaching AV, we're teaching security, we're teaching all the verticals that we deal in, right? And all these disciplines. So we have to bring products and we have to have instructors and it's got to be scheduled. So it's very labor and task intensive. And so it's hard to just say, yes, we'd love to roll it out nationally in every state, but to keep a handle on it, to keep control, we have to start slow. And that's still what we're doing is baby stepping our way through it. We know it works. It's just we need more resources to be able to roll it out faster.
So we're talking about you're in the fiber side, low voltage fiber side of things. Someone's looking into get into that industry, whether no matter where they are. Maybe you can speak to kind of the folks who are looking for a pivot in their career, maybe a career change because they see the writing on the wall, or they just are not happy with where they are and they want to get their hands in something, right? They want
Mhm.
to build something. I have to say, this is my favorite thing about our industry is I get to build something. I get to say I touched that.
Right.
I built that. What would you say to someone at the different phases, whether they're coming out of high school or they're coming out of maybe a mid-career change?
So we did a video with one of our larger customers, I don't know, about probably 5 years ago, maybe more. Time flies nowadays. We made a video about just that, and it interviewed various people in different parts of their life and where they came from. We had a police officer that was shot and had a partner killed and then ended up retiring from that and then starting a career in the ICT world, which is us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've had people that were working in warehouses like me that just said, I'm done with this. It's the same repeat thing. I'm not growing. I'm not doing anything. I'm not seeing the results of my work and come over and excel, right? And then they become field leads and they become superintendents and they just go because they're being fed, right? And that's the important part is they're getting to grow and they're getting to apply themselves and seeing the result of what they're doing. When you talk about building something, that's gratification. You get to see this work that I'm putting in has created this. And you get to bring your family by the building and go, hey, I was a part of building that, right? And then you're proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be proud of it. So I think that's the intriguing part and the important part to tell people that are in a dead end career or they're just bored and want more out of life. You can absolutely grow and see the results of your labor in this world, right?
Although I know a lot of people choose comfort, right? They choose comfort over growth. It just change is hard.
It
Making a
is.
change is hard. But I'd sometimes like to sit back and think I've been changing my whole life since the moment I was born. And I will continue to grow and change. And if I can do that, if I can get up every day and just try something new, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? And if I can think through the worst thing that's going to happen, I go back to what I was doing before?
Right.
I don't know. Like, what is that for you?
Now
Like,
you have options, right?
what are my options? What worst case is I die at my desk? And
Right.
I don't know what's the worst thing that's going to happen. Why not? Why not go out there and just see what's possible? I always think that's interesting. People have been in the same job and the same role their whole life, and they choose comfort over taking some risk or choosing growth. And I don't know that I would be who I am today had I chose comfort. And for some of us who never had comfort as a choice, it's easier said than done, probably. It's easy for me to say, and probably for you to say, I will choose growth and taking a little risk for the possibility of growing and knowing more and thriving in life. It's easy for us because we didn't have the same start in life as most people did. So we
Mhm.
had to struggle and get through those things. But what's interesting is I've never met a person who's taken a risk and said they regretted it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But you think through, well, what's the worst case scenario? Okay, that's the
You
worst.
learn some new things that you can use it later, right? I mean,
You learn some new things, right? I always think about the trades. You're like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You hope to own a house one day. You can learn how to fix up your own house instead of
yeah,
hiring and
absolutely.
spending money on a handyman. Maybe that's not your career, but you did learn how to fix a few things. And that's
Right.
pretty important if you own a house. So, what are some last words here as we kind of wrap up that you have for folks?
So comfort, when you talk about comfort,
Mm.
it's not always comfortable. When you think about it, you're comfortable at work, but are you comfortable at home and paying the bills and managing the debt, right? So there's options, right? It don't feel stuck. And I know especially during holiday time right now that a lot of people are feeling stuck and there's a lot of depression and a
Mm.
lot of that going around. There are options out there. There are people like us who will talk to you and willing to help you and
Yes.
give you a path or a direction. There's a lot of that going on right now. So I would say reach out to people, investigate it at minimum, just see what's out there, what's available for you, right? What are your options? You don't have to be comfortable or uncomfortable in your whatever your situation is. There's definitely a lot going on. People fear AI right now. Don't be afraid of AI, go build it, right? Because it's going to get built. So that's be a part of it. And then you're giving yourself a career to manage and maintain and build and grow AI because it's not going away. Don't be afraid of it. Go build it. Right.
That's right. It's not going away. Are there redundant jobs it might take? Sure. But learn how to integrate it into your own job. No one better than the person that the AI is replacing to be able to quality control the work that it's spitting out the reports and results of. We
Hmm.
still need a human extension who's used to looking at all of those to know when the data that it was fed is wrong. Go build it. I mean, that's where all the data is storage is in a data center. And it is a necessary utility if you want to have your cell phones, access to your money. I mean, that's where everything is going. We need them in our spaces. I genuinely believe that we call data centers the gold rush. I genuinely believe that we might see the modern day ghost town if data centers can't be accepted into the space that would allow big companies to come in so they can have that data storage nearby and have all the jobs that come along with it. And folks say that data centers don't provide jobs. You and I are in data centers, and we've been doing it a long time.
The jobs
And
run
it's
the gamut.
provided a job for me. Just saying. And we say, well, that's because it's construction. And when the construction is done, it's over. I'm like, I don't think you understand. It provides probably, I think last statistic I read, 10,000 jobs to support the data center
Right.
in that area. And so maybe not many to operate it, but thousands and thousands to maintain it and serve it.
And look at my path, right? I was bringing equipment into data centers, building them up, taking them down, building them up like Legos, right? And then I learn when I'm in the field. If something catches your eye and you want to go work with a technician doing something else, go learn, go talk to that person. There's opportunity there. You're not stuck in one vertical within the data center. It runs the gamut of different types of jobs and availability in that space for sure.
I couldn't agree more. So there's so many options and avenues. Mike and I could probably go on and on and on about it just in this subject alone. We could talk an hour just on that subject alone. There's just so much opportunity out there. So if you don't know anything about data centers, you don't know where your career is going to go, consider, seeking out some opportunities in the industry of high-tech data center construction, and you're not going to go wrong. So thank you, Mike, for sharing your story and talking a little bit about this beautiful program that you've launched. Thank you for being a visionary and having enough grit to show up. Because had you not, we wouldn't have New Boots program, right? That was something that was born within you and a team and who came together. And I just think it's incredible. And we always start to think about those sliding door moments in our life. And there's a sliding door moment where you could have just said, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. That's too much risk. And you didn't. You said, what, I'm going to take a leap of faith on myself and I'm going. And you've never looked back. So thank you so much for this time. And I'd like to give a shout out to my title sponsor, Mod 42, Modular Data Centers. Can't keep the mic hot without them. You can find us on anywhere that podcasts are shared. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Valerie.
Thank you for watching this episode of Hands on Heroes. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click on the bell to get notified every Thursday that a new video has been posted. And while we're here, check out another episode. Also, if you're interested in joining the mission, either as a guest speaker or sponsor, visit handsonheroes.net for more information or reach out to us directly at info@handsonheroes.net.